Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. PSG's Coupe de Ligue dominance came to an end today, this time at the hands of Guingamp. How did Guingamp do it? Where did PSG go wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down how Guingamp shocked PSG. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down the game into two halves. Look into the first half, see why PSG struggled to get a shot on target in the opening 45 minutes. Then move to the second half, see how they were able to take the lead and figure out why they struggled to cope with Guingamp on the counterattack. But first, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at Guingamp, more of a 4-5-1. Mendy up front, out in the wider areas, Thuram and Coco, and in midfield they had Blas and Doe ahead of Fury. Then we move to PSG, more of a 4-2-3-1. Mbappe ahead of Neymar, out in the wider areas, Diaby, and they went with Di Maria, and in midfield Marquinhos, and they went with Julian Draxler. So now let's get to the first half, see what went wrong for PSG and why they struggled to break down Guingamp. So when we break down the first half, we have to look at the shapes of both sides. PSG was going to dominate possession. We knew that, especially at home. So what happened here was that they often had the wider players in Diaby stepping out into that wider zone. They had Meunier pushing forward, and Bernat was sitting a bit deeper to sit with the two center backs who had lots of time on the ball and were able to play passes forward. Marquinhos was tracked by Mendy, and Mendy was sitting on him. But this was the thing with PSG. They wanted the width. They had Diaby sit out into that left touchline. Meunier was pushing forward, and what we often saw was that Guingamp had to retreat, often looking like a back six for large spells of that first half. The back four stayed very narrow. They had the back three the midfield three sitting in front of them, and they had the wider players in Coco and Thuram ensuring that Meunier and Diaby didn't get forward. Meunier was definitely pushing back Thuram, which eventually did cause issues for both sides. On the other side, Coco was down there to help out with Diaby, and that was also to ensure that when Neymar drifted out into that space, there wasn't any overloads because Bernat wasn't really looking to get forward. We saw Neymar drift into that space often, but not really offering a threat because they often had 2v2 and there was no real combinations. Mbappe was starved for service in that sense. You had Di Maria often tuck in a narrow position, trying to pull out the left back, often pushed out. Blas came out and he was able to sit on him because Draxler on the opposite side had to deal with Fury or he had to deal with Doe. So they didn't really have any threat there. And the thing with PSG is that although they were trying to stretch the pitch out in wider areas, Diaby wasn't causing too much of a constant threat. Meunier's crosses weren't being delivered into key players around the box. And why PSG do this is because they want to stretch the pitch so that Mbappe, Neymar, and Di Maria could operate in these central zones. The problem with PSG, however, is that too often do they try to find that final pass. They overplay it. They try to basically push themselves to the 18-yard box or the 6-yard box before they get a shot off. And here, Guingamp's shape was exceptional because what happened there is that they had the narrow back four ahead of the box, and they had the back three pushing off as well. So they basically had a block of 7 just ahead of those central zones. So whenever Neymar and Mbappe tried to combine, they were often shut out. Di Maria's threat, obviously, in wider areas probably would have been more pivotal for PSG based on the fact that he is able of delivering crosses into the box or providing a goal-scoring threat. But here, not offering much, and they were often shunted out when they try to move into central areas. The other problem for PSG is that they don't have a creator in that central zone if Draxler isn't getting on the ball because Marquinhos doesn't really offer that threat. So when you look at the chance that PSG did create, a lot of them stem from deeper positions. One saw Di Maria pick up the ball ahead of Blas and try to find Mbappe, who broke in between the center backs into half space, but he can only guide his effort wide of the net. Another opportunity saw Marquinhos not pressed, and he looked to pick out Neymar, who drifted into that space in behind the defense, but Kerbrat was able to bring it down, and when Mbappe looked to get the loose ball, he was able to clear his lines. One of the final opportunities saw Neymar from a deeper position drifting infield and locating Diaby running in behind Kerbrat and in behind Traore. When he was able to get onto that ball, he flashed his effort wide. But besides that, PSG never really caused Guingamp any issues in the final third. They didn't have a shot on target, which goes to show the issues that Guingamp were causing them with that shape. The wide players were reliable. The midfield ahead of the narrow back four ensured that PSG couldn't play through the center with their quick, intricate passing. And Guingamp did have a threat on the counterattack with Thuram, who constantly looked to break forward. He did do a good job defensively against Meunier, but whenever they looked to have a counterattack or a breaking transition, he was able to dribble the ball, carry it. He forced Meunier into two different types of fouls, one from in behind, one where he charged all the way into the left channel near half spaces, and he was clipped out by Meunier. So they had a legitimate threat through Thuram. They obviously didn't test Areola either, but they were competent in that first half, soaking up pressure, ensuring that PSG didn't cause them a threat in the final third. So now let's get to the second half, see how Tuchel would try to fix these issues that occurred in the first half and try to win the game, and see how Guingamp were able to pull off the upset. Tuchel instantly reacted to PSG's poor first half by bringing on Verratti, bringing on Cavani, and what we saw here was that PSG looked a bit more attack-minded. They had Cavani more central, closer to Mbappe, Diaby stuck out wide, Neymar was a bit dropped in and a bit retreated in that left-hand side role. They had Verratti sitting at the base, offering passes, playing them out, stringing them out wide. Draxler was able to push a bit forward, and Meunier was still picking up his position in higher positions. That meant that Bernat and Thiago Silva also were a bit narrow, but were pushing forward, and Carrera was sitting in the central position. PSG responded quickly, and when you look at the opening 20 minutes of the second half, you have to question how they didn't put the game out of sight. And one of the earlier chances, you see Carrera slide the ball out to Neymar in that deeper role, and he's able to pick out Cavani, making the run in behind Robosho and in by a Boa, and he delivers that cross into the box, and Cavani makes that run in, and he nods his effort right at the keeper. Should score from there, but again, it's a warning sign. Neymar dropping off, no one closing him down. Cavani's great movement, which they lacked in the penalty box in that first half, and they should have scored there. Shortly after that, we see Neymar again, who was very good in the second half, just picking up the ball from deep, dribbling past opponents, but here again, it's his ability to hold off opponents and find the right man. He drops off, and he's closed by Doe and Coco. What ends up happening is that he holds off Coco, and he ends up sliding the ball out to Mbappe, who drifts out into that space there. As Mbappe drifts out into that space, you have Toure, who doesn't want to move because Diaby's there, so Mbappe is able to drive towards goal and bend an effort inches wide of the net. Another great chance for PSG that you think that they probably should convert, but they eventually get the go-ahead goal, and it goes to show that throughout this time that they get the go-ahead goal, we eventually start to see a bit of a drop-off down that side from Thuram, and Meunier was able to push forward. I don't know if he was gambling to try and hit on the counterattack, but Meunier was able to push forward, and what we saw was Verratti find Draxler to the left of Blas in a pocket of space, and he instantly shifts the ball out to Meunier free down the right-hand side. As he drifts down the right-hand side, you have the left back trying to now get close to him, and he's able to deliver a cross into the box that we see Neymar make a run from deep, in between Doe, in between Coco, not picked up, and he breaks into the box to nod the effort past the keeper. Great finish, complete switch off from Guingamp out in the wider areas and in midfield, and PSG made them pay, and they probably should have put the game out of sight a few minutes later when we saw Diaby pick up a loose ball in the left channel, and he's closed by Coco, and what he ends up doing is drifts past him and pulls the ball back to Cavani free in the box, but Cavani slashes a shot from 6 yards out, inches wide of the net. So when you break down all those chances and you think about how PSG ended up losing this game, we have to look to Guingamp and see how they were able to easily bypass PSG. One of the reasons was the shape. You see PSG being able to push so many men forward, and the real only base they had in the central midfield was Verratti, and they were overrun in transitions, and it was just so simple from them. One of the first opportunities, we see Mendy drop off to receive the ball, and he instantly clips it out into the right channel for Coco to run onto it. One of the key things here was that Coco was able to push forward because Bernat was caught high, so Coco breaks forward. Bernat was able to recover, but he was able to take him on and cut outside, and he was able to fire a shot on goal that Areola pushed aside. It looked like it was going goal bound, so that was key that Areola got his hands to it. But shortly after that, we eventually see an individual run from Blas, and he's able to pick up the ball, and he for some reason was able to pick it up from half, not picked up by anyone, and drive forward. And as he drives forward, he eventually looks to run at Thiago Silva, but Thiago Silva holds him off well. But it's Meunier who's tracking back, and as Blas turns back, Meunier ends up clipping him down easily. It was a lazy tackle. It leads to a penalty. Thuram eventually skied it just before PSG got their opener, and you think that, okay, they're a bit lucky. Eventually, you see N'Gbakoto come on. He ends up taking off Mendy. You see Thuram move up front. Now N'Gbakoto move out to the wider areas, but it's the same issues that arise. And what we end up seeing is that shortly after PSG missed several chances, it's just from the right-hand side. Fury ends up driving down there, and he finds Traore, and they combine and they split Verratti and Bernat, and the ball is eventually pushed out to Doe. And Doe now is able to run at the PSG backline, and he ends up sliding in Coco, who makes the run across Bernat goal side. Bernat tries to get back onto his side, but he ends up pushing him down to the ground. The referee calls the penalty, and we eventually see the goal scored 1-1. N'Gbakoto levels and he converts. We see eventually Didot come on for Blas. We see Dani Alves come into midfield and to offer some more of a creative threat, but he doesn't really offer much. And you have to question that when PSG look vulnerable in those central areas, you bring on Dani Alves. That's probably not the best move to make, and you can kind of see why they missed Marquinhos, but they gambled and they tried to bring on creativity in the final minutes of the game. When PSG weren't really creating anything in the final 50 minutes, they were punished. It was Thiago Silva caught a bit high, trying to clip a ball into Mbappe. It's cleared, and eventually the ball is cleared by Doe into the path of, you have here Thuram, and now Thuram's able to run 1v1 with Carrere, and he does a good job. And as Bernat and Thiago Silva do track back, he ends up drifting out wide and trying to cut in on Carrere, and Carrere makes another lazy challenge, and he clips down Thuram in the box. Thuram eventually converts, and that is how Guingamp were able to do it. They were able to break in transition. We saw it in the first half. Thuram was forcing Meunier into fouls. In the second half, when PSG went to chase the game, they didn't have enough protection out in the wider areas and for the center backs. The center backs and the wing and the fullbacks made mistakes, and in transition they just weren't unable to stop them breaking forward. And when they did prevent them from breaking forward, they lazily jumped into tackles and were punished for fouling the players in the box. Whereas for PSG, they brought on Cavani, they brought on Verratti. It did work out, but they were unable to really exploit Guingamp when they got into great opportunities in the box, and that is why they were unable to finish the job off. But let me know what you guys think. What does this say about PSG? Will they crumble like this in the Champions League? Will they crumble like this in another domestic French competition? And what about Guingamp? Can they finish in the top half this season? Can they go on to win this tournament? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.